A great day to be on the grass. Fired up about this game for all the obvious reasons. A great matchup right here. Division opponent at home in Bank of America Stadium. A lot of energy in the building, a lot of excitement from the guys, and we understand what it's going to require. Focus. It's going to require our best playing against these types of opponents, you know, the Bucks, namely, this part of the season. And so I'm fired up to get going, and as well as the rest of the group.
What did you learn about Baker and his experience that he had here, how he felt about that while you were in Tampa?
We didn't talk much about his experience here other than right off when we first met. You know, it was more just the collective experiences he's had throughout the NFL. And my default with veteran players, you know, whether it's at the wide receiver or quarterback position over the years, is just to lean on the information and knowledge that you've gathered from the different spots, the breadth of experience against defenses. You know, by the time I got to work with Baker, he's seen every coverage and every blitz possible, and try to rmind him of that to play fast. And, you know, those are kind of the natures of our conversations.
Hey, has this ankle and foot been bothering T-Mac for a while?
This stuff that just came up in the game. I think he got rolled up on a run play, it looked like, and, you know, just kind of, you know, built up on him. And we just decided to, you know, keep him out of practice today, try to get him back for tomorrow.
I was going to ask with Baker, how much does he resemble the player that you coached versus where you see he may be different at this stage?
Yeah, he just continues to take his game up and really just time on task with the group of receivers that he's gotten comfortable with. And they're back to full strength in terms of just the guys that they were counting on coming into the season. And I can certainly see the excitement of trying to get Mike the way they get Mike the ball and Chris as well, and they got Bucky back as well. So a bunch of different weapons on that side, and you know Baker's kind of right in the middle of that, being the point guard and distributing and making sure the offense works smoothly.
I asked Princely this, but what is it about this team that you guys have excelled with your backs against the wall, per se?
It's the character of the team, and you know the guys look at these different opportunities to respond to adversity, and whether it's in a game or whether it's after the game, coming into the next one, and losing has a way of humbling you, you know, and we're no different than any group where, you know, the greatest things is these opportunities, even when you lose, can you learn from the things? Can you learn from the stuff that we didn't execute well, or different situations that I could have called something different, and Jarrow as well, and Tracy, you know, all of us taking that information in and being accountable to each other. And I believe that's probably, as I talk and ramble, getting to the accountability piece of it, where we all know we have a part in it, and so we just attack it head on and try to write those things in meetings. And when we can't wait to get back on the field to shore up some of the things that we want to show up for us.
Do you think this team responds better to adversity or success?
I mean, certainly the record would say to adversity and the way we've responded, and it does take a mentality and a mindset to be able to handle success well, so that shows up consistently, and that's what we've been after. That's what we've been trying to capture, is how to just keep it going and just build off of the things, build off of successes, and saying, let's find new lessons to learn. Let's not relearn lessons that we've already talked about and grown from. So we have another opportunity for that this week.
You talk about in your passing game, you want to find a focal point. When did T-Mac kind of become a player that you believed was able to be that?
It was pretty clear in training camp with the different formations we threw at him, the way that he was able to handle moving around in formation, the different concepts we try to throw at him, and targeting him a bunch, really early on, kind of put him on teams' radar, and they started to make adjustments to try to take him away. And then, we've seen in recent weeks Jalen Coker taking advantage of opportunities and matchups that way, and we want to continue to build that that way.
Here in Tampa, what did you learn about Mike Evans that you didn't know from afar?
Just the competitor that he is. It really didn't matter what it was. It could be ping pong, it could be darts, it could be cards, certainly on the field, shooting hoops, whatever it is. He just loves to compete. He loves to find that moment. He brings a lot of energy. He's challenging somebody and very comfortable in that place. And I just think that's probably obvious. Besides the obvious things, he's huge and he's got a catch radius and understands coverage and how to beat things. It's really just the competitive mindset that he has.
He looked coming back last week off that injury.
I thought he looked strong. I thought he looked really physical, right back to the style of play, talking about Mike, this is a guy that forces you to play a physical nature and, certainly can't, go without saying, he draws a lot of defensive pass interference calls, and going into this game, I understand the crew that we have, that's something that they do call. This is information we're aware of, but we have to be up to the challenge, and JC and Mike are going to have their opportunities, and you have to play him physical, and because he's going to bring that power forward type of mindset, to the position, and so we're not going to back off of that. We have to continue to challenge him in different ways.
I know you want to focus on a week-to-week basis, but how important is it to stress urgency of being able to control your own destiny during the next 3 weeks?
Every game is a championship opportunity. We don't see this one as anything different. It is obvious now for the division. Right in front of us, this opportunity and how huge it is, and I can feel a sense that the players feel that and see that and know that we can't let that be a distraction. We can't make it more than it is. It's about us executing. It's about us playing clean football, getting rid of some of the things that showed up last week and making sure that we play our best brand. And I can stand in front of the group and say, when we play good football, we can beat anybody. And that's a true statement for this group. And I'm proud that we've worked ourselves to that point, but we got to make it happen. We got to bring it to Sunday.
Icky was a DNP. Can you give us more information?
Yeah, he made it through the game. He was battling out there, and you can kind of sense there was some stuff going on. But, in the post-game evaluation and as we started doing tests on him, there's something in there. There's something going on with his knee, and so we had to make sure that we took care of him today. He's going to be day-to-day. We're going to look at him tomorrow, see if we can get him out there to practice. But we're not really sure right now. So, we'll go through it. We'll make sure we do all the testing that we need to and do the right thing by Icky. And, he wants to play. And I wouldn't expect anything different from him. But we have to make sure we do the right thing and put him through the ringer and make sure we test it so that it's strong and he's able to perform.
Fair to say that McMillan is also day-to-day?
Yes.
Filling in at that spot, or you?
Yeah, Josh Nyman would step in there. He practiced today for us without Icky, and Jake Curhan, who played guard for us mostly. He's played tackle in his past too, so we got a couple of guys that could help us out if we need them to.
They put McCollum on injured reserve this week. Just from what you've seen, how does that kind of change their defense, and how do you prepare when it's going to be somebody new out there?
Yeah, Zion's a part of a couple of different packages that they used. Thinking about my time there, they can move him around in different spots. He can play safety. He certainly is their starting corner, but he can play in the slot. He can play safety and gives them some versatility. So they're going to have to lean on somebody else to kind of fill those roles. But he's been a really consistent player out there for him. He's big and athletic. He's a really fine player, and so the next guy's got to step up, and we have to try to make sure we take advantage of some of those opportunities.
Rob Hunt I know that you activated David Moore. Do you know what you're going to do with him for the remainder of the season yet?
It's week to week, and we did not feel confident enough, after the first couple of days to open up his window. This week, we'll revisit it through the weekend and look at next week to see if we can open that up.
When you say that you can feel that guys, perhaps that sense of urgency,
Yeah.
What is it that you're noticing?
It's a focus. It's a seriousness, and we have fun. We really enjoy being around each other here, and the energy is right, but then there's also just like the subtle social cues where I can see this guy's locked in, and this guy's like, I can feel that, and every game should feel that way. But I don't want to certainly ignore, the game that we have in front of us, and I don't have to oversell the fact that this is a championship moment for the guys.
Dave, when you got the job,
Couple more.
When you were hired here, obviously through the interview process, you had a plan for how you were going to bring the franchise along. Where are you in your plan, as the progress and the wins and the success has come, have you maybe altered that plan, or where do you slot in with this right now?
Yeah, the plan is to build a team that we can all be proud of, the Panthers fans, and especially in this building, the organization, the administration, the players, the coaches, something that we can be proud of. Excellence, great processes in every way, shape, and form, whether that's in the training room or the weight room or the cafeteria, or especially with our coaching staff and players. You know, my dream is to continue to build that, to have great fundamentals, great core part of what we're doing. And you know, I'm really pleased with the fact that we're building that, and we have an identity of who we are, and now we're trying to find the consistency of that. But you know, that's been my dream. That's been a part of what we're trying to build here, and we're certainly on the way to that.
Dave, there was a report that the NFL admitted to you guys they blew the replay on T-Mac's catch. How did you take that news, and did they own up to any other errors?
Oh, they have to make live calls, and they have to go with the information that they're given. There's nothing we can do about that. What we can focus on is executing, doing our part, and we certainly gave up some opportunities in that game, and that's got to be our focus. That's my focus. I'm focused on getting ready for the Bucs. You know, whatever comes up after the game, you know, those things can either, you know, you can either be justified for it, or you can just say, okay, everybody's accountable to each other. We've had this conversation, we've had that information, and you just got to move on and get ready for the next week.
Feedback on those hits on Shuck?
None that I really want to talk about. I mean, we're focused on this week, and you know, I kind of want to leave those conversations between, you know, us and the officials.
All right, thank you very much, Coach.
Thanks, Coach.
Thank you.
You're looking at me like a question. So, what is your experiences with Baker? I guess you guys get together for the Heisman commercials and things like that, or what's been your experience? What have you seen in him that has impressed you over the years?
Yeah, I have a ton of respect for him. Every time I've been around him, he's been really cool. I actually talked to him multiple occasions, but I talked to him when Coach first got hired, just because he was with coach before that, so just wanted to pick his brain on things like that. So talked to him in a lot of different lights, and I have a ton of respect for him. Obviously I get to in division, so I get to watch him every we all play the same people, so. For 3 years now, I've been able to watch him play and have a ton of respect for his game, how he carries himself, how he leads. So, yeah, a ton of respect for him.
Did he ever share how hard that 22 season was for him being here?
I haven't talked to him about that. Obviously, a lot of people were here while he was, and they've done the same. They've all raved about his character, how he was in the building. He was always bringing his best, always had a lot of great energy and charisma, which isn't surprising at all to hear. So, that's what I've heard.
Bryce, this is the first season where you guys are competing for a playoff spot in the final, 3 to 4 games of the season. I know every game is considered a championship opportunity, but individually and maybe in that quarterback room, is there just like a sense of giving it kind of an extra push or honing in on specific stuff as far as the scheme or turnovers or anything like that?
No, it's being consistent. It's striving for the best. Like you said, Coach challenged us with that every weekend. It's going to be the same. We just want to go 1-0 this week. That's all that matters. So for us, we're still doing the same thing, trying to master our process in the quarterback room, having the same routine, being diligent. It's just taking it 1 week at a time.
Said he could sense subtle cues from guys today that guys were locked in. What do you see, or what's an example of that you've seen from teammates that suggests that?
Yeah, we have a group of guys that do a great job with being focused and being motivated. Walkthroughs I think is always a really good, especially a Wednesday walkthrough. You're kind of back after a little, the day off and a little bit of time away from being on the field together, and again, it's a walkthrough tempo. So I think kind of in between the huddle, seeing how quickly guys get back, hearing what the conversation is, is it all on topic? Is it all the guys that are standing behind, getting there, how focused is everyone? And, I'm super grateful and super proud of this team. We do a really good job of that, of being focused. I thought it was a good day today, but it's Wednesday, so we have to continue to be consistent, have to build, have to go back after this and watch the film, get ready to grow from it, and then have a good Thursday tomorrow.
One of the things that this team's been able to do is bounce back from losses to teams that maybe people thought you should have beat. How do you do that, like personally? Like, can you take us through like your mindset of putting that one behind and moving on to the next week and focus? Like, what do you do mentally? How do you work through that?
Yeah, again, it's just the 1-0 mentality. Good, bad, indifferent, whatever it may be, you have to, in this league, you have to turn the page. For me, individually, I enjoy the challenge. You can't be thinking about last week again, good or bad, in this league. Teams are too good. So I enjoy the challenge of having a new puzzle to try to find out, having a new game plan to study and to learn and to master, all that stuff. So for me individually, I try to just get lost in the process. I'll try to hit my landmarks throughout the week. Try to check off my boxes, and just being consumed by that process kind of just naturally allows you to turn the page.
Does it take you to get over a loss? Is it when you walk in the building on Monday morning, or is it Sunday night right after the game? When are you able to kind of get over those stuff?
It's just whenever we most of the time we come back on Monday. You right when we have a coach do a great job of kind of giving us a real timestamp of it. We go in, we watch the film, and then after we get done watching the film and talking, we go back and we have about whatever an hour or so on the next opponent, and we all come back as a group, and we all right. Pages turn. Now we are, and from then on, you're only in the building, you're talking about the next opponent, you're talking about next week, you're talking about the game plan for that week. So I think that's the time for me, as a leader, as a quarterback, I can't afford to have one foot there and then good or bad still be in the past. So when that happens, it's my responsibility to make sure I turn the page too.
You've been that way in games too, though. I mean, the ability to, like, something's going bad, but then your number's 11 wins in the last minute or whatever. What is it about you? Where did you get that strength from, or that ability to kind of put all that behind you and focus on what's ahead of you, especially at the end of a game where it's on the line?
Yeah, I think it just comes from my faith. Everything's already written. I'm a believer of that. I try to control what I can control, and I know that big picture stuff, results, in my mind, that's out of my control. I focus on the process, focus on trying to do the best I can, and I take joy in that process. And it's nice knowing, again, I can do everything I can. I can try to be diligent. I trust in the Lord, and whatever outcomes happen, big picture, one game, one season, whatever it may be. I know whatever it is, it's what's supposed to happen. So I find joy in that, and it allows me to be diligent in the process.
I know it's a different situation completely, but at Alabama, you guys were consistent winners. You were able to execute pretty consistently. What did you learn about your time at Alabama that maybe kind of lends itself to preparation and also mindset to build consistency?
Yeah, it was similar of just, you got to turn the page. We start every game 0-0. Again, whether that's good or bad, but no one comes in, and you're not going to win any games off the bus. Not in this league. You're not going to, you're not entitled to anything. So I think in college that was a theme, and also another thing was just not being motivated by external stuff. Not looking at rankings, not looking at standings, not trying to, figure out what how things are going. It's just being obsessed with us, with our process, and Coach talks about that all the time. It's about finding our best. So I think for me and for us, that allows us to be focused week to week.
So the last couple weeks, Jalen Coker is kind of emerging, making a lot of big plays. I mean, what have you seen out of him? And did you feel like it took him a bit to get going? I mean, after missing 6 weeks of the season.
Yeah, nothing. I didn't see anything new. I've seen Jalen be Jalen. Again, someone who's, crazy versatile, is an extreme competitor. Works super hard. He's huge for us. He's a huge part of us as a team, as a unit, as everything. So nothing that he's been doing has been surprising at all. I have all the confidence in the world in him. And of course, it's always tough. He was, and I felt for him early on in the year, just being out, and watching him battle in the training room, do everything right, pushing himself on the side when we're practicing just to do everything he can to get back. Obviously it's like, when you come back kind of in that mid-season, it's all of us kind of working together to find our best, and, we were still working through that. So, but again, him being who he is, making big plays, doing things right, it's not surprising at all.
Bryce, T-Mac and you guys, I think, averaged almost 5 catches a game first 11 games, but the last 3 games he has only 5 catches for just over 100 yards. So what are teams doing, or what's going on there that's sort of taking him out of the offense a little bit?
Yeah, that's the league. Teams make adjustments. There's some stuff that there's stuff that we all want back. There's stuff that we all want, obviously everyone to go and have success and have a career night every night, in the league. Sometimes, it's going to get spread out, but, T-Mac's doing a great job. He's special. He's, that's not changing. That's not going to change. Obviously, like you said, we'd love for everyone to be able to, everyone to score and everyone to have amazing yards every game. Times it's, sometimes it doesn't work out like that, but I have the confidence in the world in him. I know as an organization, coach and staff, everyone knows who he is. And, I'm always execute the game plan. I'm a listen to what the coaches say and go about that. But, I have all the confidence in the world in him.
Dave uses the phrase focal point of the passing game. When did you realize he could be that, and what did you see out of him early on that suggested he could be that kind of receiver?
Yeah, I mean, right away, there was nothing, when he first got here, he's, he does so many things so well. It's obvious just to see all that he brings to the table and again, has been since he first got here. So, luckily, in this receiver room, we have a lot of guys capable of that, which is great for me, being able to have, weapons across the board. So have all the confidence in the world in him and our entire receiving core. And, we know we're going to do whatever it takes to win.
And when you guys have a game with some kind of stakes like you have this week, is it easier to have that at home or on the road?
It's always easier to be at home just because of the fans that we have, because of the environment that the Bank of America Stadium brings. I'm super grateful for our fans. We always take pride in that. But also, it's not something we can rely on. You're going to play half at home, half on the road every year. We're prepared for whatever, but we're always grateful to be able to play at home. Thanks, Bryce.